You'll notice he no longer suffers delusions of humanity.
Affirmative.
What's up now, pump chick?
Has editing your content become a burden, or you just don't have the skill set?
I wish I could focus on content production, but post-editing takes so much time and effort.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We'll look no further. Here at Asylum 99 Studios, I can help you create professional quality videos that will be sure to captivate viewers. With my creativity and skill, along with your content, assets, and ideas, I can bring your vision into the simulation. I offer the following services: video clipping and organization, content creation, VFX, SFX, and motion graphics, intro and outro assets. Requests may be taken upon further discussion. So if you're a content creator, short on time because you're out living your best life, or you wish you could focus all your energy into producing content, reach out to Asylum 99 Studios today.
What are you waiting for?
What am I waiting for? What am I waiting for?
Don't settle for mediocre videos. Hire me as your freelance video editor and create videos that meet your standards. Asylum 99 Studios. Release your creativity.
What's going on, tribe? This time we're going to talk about the schemes of the Central Intelligence Agency. We're going to talk about the things that they did in the mid-20th century that led us to where we are now. Now, when you see this clip, you're going to start having some epiphanies if you aren't in the know about the topic. I want you to pay attention closely, because what you're going to hear is going to sound eerily familiar because you're seeing it with your own eyes in real time every day, especially this year since it's the 10/24 election season. They're going into overdrive. So I thought we should cover this now at the top of the year. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get to it.
Sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Governments have always had a twitchy trigger finger when it comes to wielding the shiny weapon of mass psyops. Beginning in the 1950s, the CIA began to hire and contract students and people in the media to write false stories or embellish stories to favor the U.S. government. Massive amounts of propaganda were funded using fake companies during the 60s to control the awakening student population.
CBS News, without any flowers in its hair, is in San Francisco because this city has gained the reputation of being the hippie capital of the world.
People think of newspapers as institutions. We don't try to cater to the audience so much as shape and develop those people that are ready to rebel in this society.
So, we see that they had a plan during the mid-1900s or the mid-900s, if you're in the know, to influence the young student population. Now, what's important about that time frame? What was going on in the 60s? The fake-ass civil rights movement, or as people in the know refer to it as its true name, the Indian Civil Rights Act, right? This is preceded by the Racial Integrity Act. So it stands to reason that the CIA had everything to do with the civil rights movement and all the drama that ensued because of it. But prior to that, we were living on farms, we had a tighter family unit, we were doing better economically and financially, way more than we are today. But because that was the case, they had to come in and shake all that shit up. They had to come in and trick us into believing that we needed to be in the cities with the foreigners, the new incoming foreigners. The descendants of Ellis Island, all the people who were escaping the world wars, like Chief Red Wolf teaches us. They destroy everything with war, then they bring in the invaders, and then they start messing with your information and rewriting everything. A lot of people don't think that it's important, but it really is. What happened to us affects the rest of you foreigners as well, as you're seeing today with the new influx of migrants. So y'all can keep on trying to kick us down the nigga hole, or y'all can pull your heads out of your ass to see that history is alive, so we can go back and fix this and get these frauds out of these government buildings and get this so-called country back on track.
A matter that we must look at very closely to be sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again, if it can be prevented.
Revealing the infiltration of the media by the CIA and interested parties. The 1977 Woodward and Bernstein piece, The CIA and the Media, delved further in, revealing the amounts the reporters were paid by the CIA. But the CIA's craving for harder psyops couldn't be quenched, and as media evolved, the CIA expanded their reach into American film, music, and television.
How about this? Why don't they just have at the beginning of each film, made with the support of the Central Intelligence Agency, let's see how long the practice lasts then. Because it won't. Because people will look at it and say, oh, it's one of those propaganda films.
So if you're not in the know, now you're starting to see why all of the media usually draws from real life for its plot, etc. Every single thing you're seeing on the Black Mirror was purposely put there in front of you. The only place where you really stand a chance, somewhat of a chance, because you know they're getting their hands into social media and content creation as well, is on the internet, on YouTube and other places where you can pick what you want to watch and you can decide for yourself if the information is legitimate or not. A good example of what they're speaking of here as a predictive programming film would be the Barack Obama movie, Leave the World Behind, right? Or any movie really, especially these days. You know what I'm saying? A good one from the past would be Roots, because after the 60s, after the Civil Rights Act and all of that garbage that passed against us, they had to continue to influence the offspring of the students that they corrupted with their propaganda. Those offsprings being people such as myself, my relatives, and my kinfolk throughout the so-called community. They got us to sign all of our shit over, and then they continued to drill us with propaganda that we weren't from here to further keep us away from the truth. No, I'm not making this about ninjas. I'm just giving y'all the facts of how we ended up here.
Until the Manchurian Candidate, Barack Obama, opened the floodgates in 2012 with the modernization of the Smith-Munn Act, unleashing unyielding CIA propaganda on the unsuspecting American people.
For those of you who don't know what the Smith-Munn Act was, allow me to explain. Summary, H.R. 5736. Smith-Munn Modernization Act of 2012 amends the United States Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948 to authorize the Secretary of State and the Broadcasting Board of Governors to provide for the preparation and dissemination of information intended for foreign audiences abroad about the United States, including its people, its history, and the federal government's policies through press, publications, radio, motion pictures, the internet, and other information media, including social media and through information centers and instructors. Under current law, such authority is restricted to information disseminated abroad with limited domestic exception. Authorizes the Secretary and the Board to make available in the United States motion pictures, films, video, audio, and other materials prepared for dissemination abroad and disseminated abroad pursuant to such act. The United States International Broadcasting Act of 1994, the Radio Broadcasting to Cuba Act, or the Television Broadcasting to Cuba Act. Amends the Foreign Relations Authorization Act, fiscal years 1986 and 1987 to prohibit funds for the Department of State or the Board from being used to influence public opinion or propagandizing in the United States, Under current law, such provision applies to the United States Information Agency, USIA. Applies such prohibition only to programs carried out pursuant to the United States Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948, the United States International Broadcasting Act of 1994, the Radio Broadcasting to Cuba Act, and the Television Broadcasting to Cuba Act. States that such provision shall, 1. Not prohibit the department or the board from providing information about its operations, policies, programs, or program material, or making such information available to members of the media, public, or Congress. 2. Not to be construed to prohibit the department from engaging in any medium of information on a presumption that a U.S. domestic audience may be exposed to program material. And 3. Apply only to the department and the board and to no other federal department or agency.
CIA propaganda on the unsuspecting American people. Now, in 2024, the ragged media landscape, weaponized to the hilt, actively serves the public a steady diet of omission, while a record high 39% of Americans say they don't trust the media. And the media is on life support. In 2020, 16,000 jobs were cut from the print, broadcast, and media workforce. By 2024, major players in the media landscape were cutting staff.
Think people like Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon. A lot of high-profile people lost their jobs and had to strike out on their own, right? Pay attention.
Fox, Vice, The Intercept, Now This, BuzzFeed, The Business Insider, Time, The Los Angeles Times, The Washington Post, NBC News, and others sent many packing. And as Rome burns, Old Yeller fiddles. Every time the Bidens check in on how far the ball is moved on the investigation of their corruption, investigative journalist Catherine Herridge was there, detailing their grifting treason in great length. She was simply too damn good at her job.
One of the people that our viewers trust, one of the people who I trust, to unravel what's happening, particularly when it's complex.
I just feel a lot of concern that 2024 may be the year of a black swan event.
Her firing reveals that America is experiencing historic communist-level censorship.
Now, tell me that ain't true. Look at the news cycles. Look at what they're covering. It's election year. Come on, y'all.
Jonathan Turley, CBS reportedly seized all of her belongings, including files, computers, and most importantly, information on privileged sources. A former CBS manager said that he had never heard of anything like this. He said the holding of the material was outrageous and clearly endangered confidential sources, according to Jonathan Turley.
When the FCC was developed back in the 30s, the core concept was diverse ownership. You wanted a lot of different owners in a lot of different places. There was a vision of that goes back a very, very long way. This assaults that vision. It basically says, no. You have one little group of people sitting in an office someplace, and they decide what's being discussed all across the country.
As George Soros eats up 220 American radio stations, the First Amendment and CIA propaganda are on a collision course of monumental proportions, which will ultimately result in either third world totalitarianism or a return to the veritas of the Fourth Estate the American Constitution and its people defend. The shadow government will be forced out into the open, one way or another. John Bound reporting.
So, with that out of the way, my question to the bot horde is, are you going to continue to be spoon-fed everything you know, or are you going to start doing some research? Because this year will be the year that you pulled your head up out of the sand. With all that's going on, they're telling you the border's never been more secure. Now they're actually telling you that Donald Trump let all of these people in here. Crazy, ain't it? Yeah, Twitter's a wild place. That's where I saw that at. They're talking about Donald Trump set it up so all these Venezuelans can come in here. The man that was building the wall that y'all stopped, who's the one using Border Patrol to bring these migrants in here? We know who it is. And now we know who it is running the block for them. Right? This information's really not even hidden. It's public information. If you have the heart to go look for it and seek the truth and be willing to humble yourself and say that you were wrong. It's not too late to fix this, America. but it all depends on the bot horde. So, this video opened up another tunnel for me to go down. It's a tunnel I'm aware of, but I found some documentation, and I'm going to be bringing y'all a presentation on that next. The CIA has been a very, very dangerous weapon against the United States population. And the only way you can combat that is you have to be in full control of your brain. You got to use your mind, and you got to really work to break free of the propaganda, because they're going to bombard you with it so much, so often, that you're going to start to question yourself on whether you believe it or not. And because most of you are socially dependent, you're going to more than likely side with the common consensus. And just because it's the common consensus doesn't mean it's the correct one, right? At the end of the day, it's time for you to become a free thinker if you're not already one. And you really don't have that much more time. Because once it goes left, you're going to get what you deserve. So with that said, I'm going to catch y'all in the next round. Y'all be easy. Wake the hell up.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. Go on.
I am a human being. I exist.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions.
Send the word.